Welcome to Service Trucks USA, the podcast that helps owners, operators, and vendors of vocational service trucks tackle the challenges of work-life balance and making money. But this podcast is about more than just trucks and stuff. We'll also delve into deeper discussions on finding and keeping employees, understanding commercial insurance, simplifying business processes, smart buying, and how to avoid losing everything in a divorce. Oops, did I say that out loud? My bad. Hey everybody, this is KJ. You are listening to my new podcast called Service Trucks USA. That's Service Trucks USA. And I am so glad you're here. Now, as we get started, let me just lay out some ground rules. Ground rule number one, you are the most important part of the show. The show's never supposed to be about me. It's never supposed to be about the service truck. It's about you. And by that, I mean, we're going to be telling stories about everybody that is impacted by field service trucks. That's why I called the show Service Trucks USA, because we're going to touch on every single part of the United States of America. And we're going to be talking about all the different users and people that are affected by these service trucks. Let's get started. I am a sales guy and I work for a body manufacturer. And about 5 years ago, I had the audacity to think that I could use social media to, be an influencer, to maybe sell a few more trucks. But at the same time, I was a little bored and I wanted to engage the community, right? I want to be a part of it. So I was going to start my my own new community all on myself on my own platform. And then I was talking to my friend, Kevin. He used to work for Anadarko, and Kevin said, man, you should go on his Facebook group. And I go, Facebook's stupid. I don't want to go on Facebook. And he goes, no, seriously, man, they got this group and they got all these mechanics in there. And I think you'd be perfect, man. I think and he says, I'll send you an invite. So I get an invite, I join, and I think I do my little first sales. Hey, I'm with Summit. And I promptly get kicked out of the group. I go, what? What'd I do? And then I went back and said, hey, man, I got kicked out of the group. So he hooked me up with the owner of the group. And he said, hey, I'll let you back in. So I got back into the group. And this time I lasted for about a week and I got kicked out again. Now I'm starting to feel a little defensive. Well, man, I don't know why these guys won't let me in the group. I called back again. They let me in one more time. And this time I rethought it. And I go, you know what? The reason they don't want you in this group is because they see you as a salesperson. You got to rethink who you are and what you bring to the table. And so from that point on, I didn't ever try and sell anything in that group. All I tried to do is provide information. So if a thread came up talking about weight of a truck, I'd pipe in, offer some anecdotal evidence. I'd offer some facts. Anything that I thought I could be of help, I would do so. And then when I did post, I stopped focusing on myself or my company, and I started focusing on my customers. Well, after a little bit longer, I finally got accepted into the group, and things started to grow. Now, that group back then was sitting at around 10,000 members. I would like to say that I was a part of the group's growth because now it's close to 40,000 members. And as a result of that, I've had a chance to meet and talk to literally thousands of you guys. And that, my friends, led me to the next fantastic idea. And that is, why don't you do a podcast? So when I made this decision to do a podcast, I thought, what is my goal? Like, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? And that is, I wanted to find a platform where I could tell your stories. The single number one benefit of my job is that I get to spend hours getting to know you guys. I get to know your stories. I get to meet your kids. I get to meet your wives. I get to meet your moms, your dads. I talk to you about how you got started. I know where you used to work. I know who ripped you off, who lied to you, who hurt your feelings. I know about your finances. I get a chance to see your credit. Man, I get to see so much stuff, and I'm constantly inspired by what I've learned. And I took that collective experience and I said, if I could just tell these stories, I think it could help other people, other folks. Okay, now, in order to get credibility, I recognized that somehow, just like I got kicked out of that Service Trucks group Facebook page many, many times, I know there's going to be some pushback on Kenny that works for Summit starting his own podcast, that I have some agenda. And I know that I'm going to have to earn your trust and your confidence. So the first thing I did when I launched this idea is I had to get some credibility. So I was able to sit down with many of Summit's top competitors. And I was fortunate that I've built relationships with these folks. And I was able to get a podcast recorded with the vice president of Maintainer, vice president of Autocrane. I've had a chance to sit down and record a podcast with the vice president of Van Air Manufacturing, the guys that make all the cool compressors. And I got a chance to sit down and record a podcast with top sales engineer and top engineer from VMAC. That's just 4 of the podcasts that are already done, and they're going to be launched at the same time that this podcast gets released. Now, why did I do that, and why did I make that my first priority rather than tell stories about you guys? Well, it's because I'm not an idiot. I'm trying to get some credibility with you guys. I need to convince you guys that I don't have another agenda and that I'm genuinely looking out for your best interest. All right. All that said, you know a little bit about me. Let's give you an example of what I'm talking about. So one of the areas that I want to cover in these podcasts is safety. And safety is super important to me for a number of different reasons. So I would start off by telling you a couple of stories. So the first story involves me working for a dealership. I was a fleet director. And as a fleet director, I had a salesperson working for me that just felt he could say anything to make a sale. And I looked at a truck that he had spec'd, and we were in the process of building it. And it was a 20-foot flatbed that he was going to put on the back of a F450. And the wheelbase of that truck was 189 inches, and it had a 108-inch cabbed axle. And according to the bodybuilder's guide, it was too short a wheelbase, too short a CA for that particular body. And then it dawned on me the tremendous responsibility that I had as the director of the department and that my salespeople have is that when we spec out a body or spec out a truck, people's lives are dependent upon what we do. Now, in this case, that body company was just selling a flatbed. They didn't care. They didn't know anything about departure angles. They didn't know anything about rear axle weight rating. They didn't care. All they know is they were selling a flatbed, and we got the guy approved and it was going to be financed. And then it dawned on me that it was my responsibility as the boss of that department to say no. And I was frankly terrified at what would have happened if I had been focused more on making the sale and making the money than realizing the liability that we had. Okay. The next thing that happened was, and for those of you that know where I live and know the part of town that I'm at, I would appreciate that I don't want anybody to be offended about what I'm about to talk about next, because it's something that is deeply personal to me. But again, it's a topic that I plan on addressing a lot in this podcast, and it has to do with safety. So those of you that have known me for a while know that I tend to do these little short, silly videos. I call them my one-take wonders. They're not edited. They're not scripted. I just film them on my phone and throw them up on the air. And some of them are better than others. And a couple of them you guys have really enjoyed and commented, and I appreciate that. Well, one particular podcast, one particular little short that I filmed involved a young man who helped me, and he acted in my little vignette that I created, and he did a great job. And man, I loved it, and a lot of you guys enjoyed it. Well, about 3-4 weeks after I filmed that, I got a call from the owner of one of the companies that, that I sell trucks to. And he says, man, there's been an accident and one of my guys is really, really hurt. And it just so happened that I was in town. And so I said, I'm not where did it happen? And I go, it turns out I wasn't that far away. So I got in, I told him, you know what, I'm really close by. I'll go by and take a look. Of course, because it involved one of our trucks, I was, obviously concerned. And I got out there. And fortunately for me, I didn't witness the aftermath of the accident. But when I arrived, I learned that this person had been killed. He died on the scene, and it involved a service truck, and they were doing some work on a big 579 excavator. And without going into all the details, there were some mistakes made, and those mistakes resulted in the instantaneous tragic death of the technician. And I looked at the scene and I saw all the OSHA guys and all the safety people and all these people out there on the scene. And it just hit me so dang hard. There were two technicians. I talked to the other one and he was devastated. Everybody was devastated. And I cried. I cried hard, man, because the guy had kids. He's young. And then it made me realize that what you guys do is hard, man. It's freaking hard, incredibly challenging. And one tiny little mistake and you're done. And I recommitted myself to making sure that everything that I do forever is always going to be promoting safety first. It's always going to be safety first. And that's what this podcast is about. We're doing real stuff. We're talking about real stuff. I'm not going to be up here cussing and, telling you stories about, how you got started and all that kind of stuff. There'll be a little bit of that, but really the goal of this podcast is to give you guys opportunities to learn, be educated, and be motivated to do things as smart as you possibly can so that you get home at night. So that's why I hope you listen to this podcast, because I hope that the 20, 30, 40 minutes that you spend with me, you come away knowing more than you knew before you turned the podcast on. That's the whole idea of this show. That's what we're doing. I'm not out here trying to sell anything. I'm trying to engage, because as I get older, I realize that the only thing that matters in life is what you do for other people. If you make other people's life better, then that's going to be better for everybody. And hopefully you leave that legacy behind that can carry on to other people. Now, another topic we're going to talk about in detail is this ridiculous increase in truck prices and bodies and availability. Yes, your boy is a subject matter expert. Truth is, I've almost quit at least 5 times in the last year and a half because I'm just as frustrated as you are with the lack of availability and the price increases and all this other stuff. And then God reminded me that he ain't done with me yet, and he's going to let me stay here for a little bit longer. So I'm committed to educating you guys on how to make good decisions when picking a service body. Now, I work for a company, but this show, you guys should know I'm 100% agnostic, and I'm going to be real and transparent. I'll tell you the goods and the bads. I'll give you the inner secrets and the stuff that I think is relevant when you guys are trying to make a choice. If we find out that somebody's building a crappy product, this is going to be the show where we're going to call them out, because they ain't sponsoring it. They're not putting any money into it. So I'm just going to tell the truth. That's what you can count on from the show. I'm going to get you the inside scoop from the different chassis manufacturers. So here's an inside scoop that you guys may not be aware of. Did you know that the infinite wisdom leaders, thought leaders from the state of California have decided that they are unilaterally going to save the planet and make it greener? Yep, they're at it again. You know that California clean idle thing that we have on all trucks in all 50 states, well, they've decided that they want cleaner diesels again. So beginning in 2024, for those of you that don't know, California has implemented a brand new federal standard on a diesel truck. That means that your truck currently that can't breathe, that has a DPF filter that's causing you all kinds of aggravation, is about to get choked anymore. Ah, it's going to die. We're going to go from a 0.05 NOx level to a 0.02. Now, the fact that hardly anybody even has an engine that meets that California standard, of course, the leaders in California never dawned on them. And because California leads the other goofy states, apparently 10 other states have also adopted these rules. So like it or not, the price of a diesel truck in the United States is about to go up again. Yep. Can you believe that nonsense? It's going to go up again. So beginning in 2024, all those trucks are going to have this new diesel standard, and it's going to have this mandatory warranty requirement that's going to add more and more money. So if you thought the price of the trucks was already ridiculous, Lord have mercy, you're going to hate it in another 12 months. As a result of that, companies are cutting back. The big OEMs are going, look, we don't know what the future is going to hold, so we're not going to make as many trucks. So almost every major commercial truck chassis manufacturer is on allocation right now. The tidbit that I heard is that Chevy and their new medium duty line is having some issues. They're not making any 4x4s next year, okay? Ram cut back production of their trucks because of a lack of availability of engines. PACCAR, they got all their stuff on allocation. So for those of you that are trying to debate whether or not you should pull the trigger on a new truck, the answer is, yep, you should. You should probably go ahead and bite the bullet, try and grab whatever availability you can, get in line, put your name on a truck, because it does not look like it's going to get any better any sooner. Now, the other elephant in the room is this push to EV. We're going to cover that extensively in the podcast. Not so much because I think we're going to be running, battery electric service trucks, but where it's going to come into play is you guys are going to be tasked to keep that equipment running. So I'm going to seek out subject matter experts that are going to help you guys understand where the money-making opportunities are, where you should be focusing your training and your education, and what type of resources are you going to have to acquire in order to compete in this new marketplace that's going to be taking place. So that's what the podcast is about, okay? I'm just a facilitator. I'm the host. I'm the entertainer. I'm occasionally going to make you laugh. Maybe once or twice I might make you cry. But the goal of this podcast is to inform, entertain, educate, and motivate, okay? And if I do my job right, it's going to be a place where you can come, relax, and enjoy that 30 minutes of downtime and know that I'm never, ever, ever going to waste 1 second of your time, because I understand how valuable it is. So what can you do to help this podcast get off to a good start? It's real simple. Go to our website, which is www.servicetrucksusa, trucks is spelled Trux, USA.com, and sign up. Click the button and follow us. We've got a Facebook group, and engage. Comment on this podcast. Tell us what you want to listen to in the future. If there's a particular person you want me to grab, dude, I am tenacious. I'm like a pit bull when it comes to getting somebody. And you tell me who you want, and I will track that bad boy down, and I will get him on the show, and we will talk, and we will educate and help you guys learn more. But in order to do that, you guys got to tell me who you want, okay? Now, I'm going to share a little anecdotal story for you because it should be fun. I went through a period of depression recently, and it was horrible. I mean, totally jacked up. I'm talking scary stuff. And during this period of time, I realized that I could not get out of it by myself. I've probably have never been in that bad a place as I was during this period of time. Now, I want to give a shout out to my boy, Dave Thornberry, because he committed to helping me. I kept committed to helping him, and we formed a pact, a brotherhood, where we would support each other. but I also realized I needed professional help. So another topic that I meant to mention, but I forgot, and now I'm mentioning it, and that is mental health. I'm unapologetic that we as men are not doing a good job of taking care of ourselves. We're not getting the help that we need. We're isolating ourselves. We're using substitutes to try and find peace. Some of you and us are using alcohol. Some of you are using drugs. Some of you are using pornography. Some of you are just working yourself to death. But all of those things are just a substitute for what you really need. Now, I finally recognized that I need enough help that I went out and got therapy, and I'm getting therapy, and it is making a difference. So another thing that you can count on if you choose to make this podcast your home is that I'm going to seek out and share with you resources that may save your life, may save the life of the people that you love. And we're going to be unapologetic about it, man. This is a safe spot, okay? This is a place where you can count on being a part of a group of people that genuinely care about you, okay? So this is Service Trucks USA. This is not how the coach told me to do the intro podcast, but my sister said, do you, bro? So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing me. I'm in Los Angeles with my new friend, Felicia. She's in the booth. She's my sound engineer. She's my inspiration when I'm out here in LA. And please join me on this podcast. I promise you it's going to get better. Okay. So hang tough with me. Pick your favorite place that you want to listen to it, whether it's iHeartRadio, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Apple, Amazon, whatever way you want to receive this podcast, we're on all of them. So like and follow it, give us 5 stars, work with me because I'm still learning. I promise you I'm committed to getting better. Now remember, work smart, work hard, and love Jesus. Amen. I don't know if I'm going to leave that in there, but it sounded good right now because that's really what my brain is all about right now. So thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it. Peace out. Subscribe right now to Service Trucks USA on your favorite platform so you'll never miss an episode. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Service Trucks USA. That's Service TRUX USA, where you'll get even more great content, discussions, and resources related to vocational service trucks. I look forward to getting to know each of you better. Until then, keep your fingers dirty and your nose clean. This is your guy, your man, your dude, KJ, signing off.